as Silvername showed us with fantastic aplomb earlier. But we're going to be taking a little bit of a break from some of the outright aggro that we've been seeing, particularly in that last series with the mirrored lineups, moving away from the aggro Demon Hunter to the Soul Demon Hunter here from Glory, and we see the power of those bladed ladies and so on really coming into effect. Slightly different methodology of getting there, but the goal is the same, dealing as much damage as you possibly can to your opponent as quickly as possible. And I do feel that it's a very powerful deck, particularly when it comes up against these kind of aggro board-based strategies, as we're seeing here from the aggro Highlander Hunter on the other side, because it has great removal, it has great rebound with all the lifesteal effects that you have in there, and it very rarely has to choose between pushing damage and clearing boards. It can quite often do both of those things in the same turn, which is what makes it such a powerful deck coming up against these aggro strategies.
Yeah, and here we are. Mulligans are happening right now. Monsanto on the top on that Hunter, Glory on the bottom on the Demon Hunter, and it is our first semi-final of the day. The winner of this series does go on to the finals to face the winner between Yala and Silvername. So everything continues to be on the line for these players. Mulligan already done for Glory, but I am interested to see how Monsanto goes here, because this is one of those hands that you could convince yourself to keep some of it with the Snake Trap, then maybe not being procced into Petting Zoo. But I think rightly so, Monsanto just shows a good amount of discipline there and says, actually, I can get much better openings.
Yeah, I agree, especially when he's already, leaning towards keeping that tech card with the Acidic Swampoos. I don't think he can be afford to be too greedy with some of those early game keeps. Oh, sorry, some of those mid game keeps, because surprisingly, Demon Hunter does have the ability to do just this against you. They can curve out quite quickly themselves. So if you keep that mid game package with the secrets, you might just find yourself falling behind on board. And I think you saw a little grimace come out there from Monsanto as the Spirit Jailer came down on one, because that is precisely what's happening right here.
Yeah, you do just want to at least get the first couple of minions stuck as Hunter first, and then everything you can do beyond that, such as secret generation, the weapons, can then, back that up and reinforce it. But this looks like it's going to be the coin Zephyrus into Powered Shield. Not a play I've seen for a while, but definitely a powerful one, because already you can see that Glory would have to have a very specific answer to be able to deal with this. And funnily enough, he has two of them.
He does have two of them, and the second one is actually a really big deal. I do think this is a super underrated play. I know we have seen it in the past, and people have freaked out about it, but it's been a thing that I've done quite a lot. If you just look at it as like coining Totem Golem in a tempo matchup, like, yeah, that seems like a thing you should probably do, right? Like, that exact play terrorized the metagame for quite some time. But I think Monsanto, going very deep into the thought process there, might have said, okay, Soul Shear is a good answer to this, but if he Soul Shears as the answer to this, what does he do against my Phase Stalker next turn? Which is why I said that second Soul Shear might actually end up being a very crucial pickup. As it stands, Glory picked up the Twin Slice here instead. He's going to choose to go that route.
Yeah, why do you think he did that instead of... Because Soul Shear in the Hero Power face looks very clean. Do you think he wants to hold on to some activators for Soul Fragment cards?
He may well do, yeah, because also he's using up potential Bladed Lady activators, right, by dumping some of that Twin Slice real estate early on. So there's definitely some upsides there to using the Soul Shear, but yeah, I can only imagine he's looking to stagger things out.
It's really nice forward planning as well, because not only the Bladed Lady it's less good now because he's used up some of that buff damage, but look at that skull already in place. The more fragments you shuffle in, the higher the chance that the skull's going to draw them, and he could get the job done. It's not like he held off on Soul Shear to just not kill the minion afterwards. Like, he did the job. So I do actually like this a lot from Glory, and it might look like a small thing, but it could well have big impacts into the game, because he can already see what his plan is going to be in the future.
Yeah, the question then becomes, how long can he hold off on using this Soul Shear? Like, can he make it all the way to the Skull of Gul'dan without using the Soul Shear? But that is definitely a factor. I think also a small factor on top of that as well is that, he doesn't want to stagger too much potential healing into his deck right now while he's healthy. Obviously, the healing is a very relevant factor for him.
I do like this Il'gynoth, yep. It's just, kind of 4/6, right? It's just a good minion to play. The health is so high, and even though there's no overly fancy big OTK combos coming out of this deck, it's just a solid card that can push an absurd amount of damage, and it is one that Monsanto simply cannot ignore, but also doesn't have a way to deal with it anyway outside of multiple base tankings with that weapon, which is going to deal an absurd amount of damage.
Yeah, and I do think this is a great timing for the card in the matchup, just drawing it on curve, playing it on curve as a pile of stats, making Monsanto deal with it. Because later in the game, honestly, in this matchup, a lot of the time, you will want your lifesteal to be lifesteal in a lot of situations, right? Like, pushing the extra damage isn't always going to be super relevant. So getting it down now, as you said, it will still push a good chunk of damage in most scenarios. But it's also just occupying board and getting out of the way so that your lifesteal can actually help you get those rebounds in the late game if you need it. So, love this timing from Glory. It wasn't a super in-depth play, obviously. He top decked a 4-drop on 4, and therefore he played
It's just good.
It's just good.
Yep. And look how miserable this looks. The hero power and the weapon swing does get, or will get the Oganoff to 1 health if Monsanto chooses to execute this. But he's paying a lot for this. Not only his own health pool, of course, but also the fact that Oganoff can then just go again, or he can maybe use it to just trade off this 1-2 and say, actually, I can continue to develop even more.
Right. And now we'll see, how committed to this Skull of Gul'dan plan Glory is, because again, not playing the Soulshire this turn not only makes the removal a little bit more awkward, but it also ends up floating a ton of mana this turn. And this was the concern I raised at the time about this plan of how committed to not playing Soulshire before Skull of Gul'dan can you really get here?
I actually quite like just Blade Dance with Second Slice and Hero Power. You can push 7 this turn, get rid of the minions, and then the thing is, although it might look like overkill, Skull just unlocks everything else, right? Like, you can overkill or do a bit too much if Skull's then the next play to just draw you a ton of cheap cards.
Sure. I don't hate that. I think Monsanto's play definitely indicates that he would really like one of these minions to contest that Il'gynoth this turn, right? So I do like a full clear. Wouldn't have had too many objections to whichever way he's gone about it, but in the end does end up using that Soulshire, which, as discussed, will potentially weaken his Skull of Gul'dan if it hits some soul fragments on the next turn, but he's still looking in a pretty comfortable position so far.
Yeah, and of course Blade Dance is an extremely powerful tool, not one you normally want to throw away on 1-drops. It was just an interesting option he had, but Monsanto now gets to discover a secret that can maybe help bail him out of this awkward situation, because that Dragonbane sitting in hand just isn't going to get the job done. Not being able to hero power quite yet means it's not going to get that extra effect. But maybe, just maybe, depending on what this secret's going to be, the Dragonbane might just come down as a speed bump. With that much mana floated, maybe he's expecting after those couple of turns from Glory that there's a skull sitting there.
Yes. And that does mean it will represent good pressure, right? Like, sure, Glory will have probably a nice relaxed turn here where he can freely play Skull of Gul'dan. But in response to that, if Glory doesn't hit the nuts off the skull immediately, Monsanto might well have a fairly empty board on which he can throw out Dragonbane hero power and demand that Glory answers it. The problem is that all of those resources that come from the skull are probably still going to be able to answer that board state quite easily.
It's why I was wondering if it's actually worth just dropping the Dragonbane clean this turn. You can tank the minion with the weapon and just play Dragonbane. It hurts to do it, of course, and miss out on the guaranteed hero power, but... well, yeah, I was going to say there's some questions raised.
Raven, I know you are the world's biggest card-carrying Skull of Gul'dan fanboy, but surely even you concur that drawing cards right now is not a good idea.
You will not hear any arguments from me on this play from Glory. I think it is 100% correct for the mere fact that Hunter does not answer Militia.
No.
There's just not a way. It just doesn't exist. Outside of Zephyrus.
Yes.
Outside of Zephyrus, but it just doesn't answer it. So the idea of Militia is if it comes down as the Hunter, you should either be setting up lethal or already have an overwhelming board presence. Neither of those things are the case.
You see the smile light up on Glory's face. He knows how positive his situation is right now.
And even
Monsanto's reaction, the exact opposite. Bladed Lady just getting to push damage. Lethal setup. Game.
The fact that Bladed Lady wasn't sniped there by the Dragonbane was everything. Of course, Glory was in a great spot with the Militia, but the fact he just had a 6-5 that could just go face for that extra push opens up everything. Just a really, really solid game there from Glory. I like the way he approached it. Of course, some of the draws helped him out, but he didn't have the craziest opening hand, right? He had some good answers, but no progression. There were no weapons, whereas Monsanto just never really felt like he got on board properly. Everything was very, sort of just awkward shapes to get into good, strong turns.
Yeah, I would argue that his start was very, very solid in the matchup specifically. Just having 1 3-on-1 into just a suite of removal that he can run through to just make sure he's not falling behind on board. That's pretty much what you want to go for. Obviously, you want to pick up a weapon, especially when you have Bladed Lady in hand the whole time. But in a cruel twist of fate, the Acidic Swampoos was the one kept card that would have just shut down that line of attack from Glory quite quickly. So things all panned out very, very nicely for Glory. But I think you just saw a moment of composure on his face there from Glory as we went to his shot, where he just lay back in his chair, deep breath, just trying to compose himself. And that is something that I'm definitely going to keep an eye on with Glory if he continues to progress through this bracket, because we have seen it on 1 or 2 occasions on the APAC broadcast where his nerves get the better of him in high pressure situations, and he will have been in very few more high pressure situations than where he is right now. But so far, looking good for him. Clean win with the Demon Hunter, moving on to his Libram Paladin.
And this is a deck and an archetype I've actually liked for quite a while now. And it's one that continues to make me laugh a little bit, because I think since its sort of creation, a lot of the player base is, Libram Paladin, it's not good because it's too predictable, it's too sort of just one-dimensional maybe.
Yes.
And of course the deck list has improved, but I wonder at what point does a one-dimensional deck list that wins all the matchups that or a lot of the matchups that are being played go from being one-dimensional bad to one-dimensional good? Because its performance in this tournament as well has been great. Its win rate is up there.
It is, yeah, and that's in stark contrast to what we saw in Grandmasters in the regular season, where there was still that big debate between, Paladin stats on ladder are incredible. Like, it does well in open cups. Like, why don't people play it in GM? And then the people that did try and play it in GM just really were not successful. But that does not seem to be the case now. But I think you hit the nail on the head very, very early, which is the deck list has improved enormously. A lot of that criticism of the deck is way too predictable and way too one-dimensional, that was mostly leveled at pure Paladin, I would say. And suddenly adding in the Salit's Pride package with Loot Hoarders and Penflingers and Brooms and all of that extra stuff, that's what's created the intricacy and the possibilities for adaptation and counterplay, which really lets a skilled player get their hands on this deck and really, start to impart their skill edge on the opponent as well, and really make it a more robust deck in a lot of different situations.
And as we get into this, both players having quite powerful openings. Obviously, it doesn't look as good for Monsanto, but having those fragments in and then the Shard Shatter Mystic in hand ready and waiting feels pretty nice. But the one drop into choices of Hand of Adal or Loot Hoarder with Salit's Pride, which might look weaker because of the shape of the hand, but there are plenty more minions from Salit's Pride than just the Loot Hoarders. So anything that Glory does here, just even playing on curve, is going to be incredibly powerful, and this is going to be a tough one from Monsanto just from this point onwards.
Yeah, absolutely crucial attack from Monsanto on the previous turn, though, as he shipped the 1 damage from the hero power into the minion. At this level, that's something you'd expect to see every player do basically automatically, and Monsanto did so, but of course you see the difference between that minion after the Hand of Adal trade being a 3-4 or a 3-3, and that was doubly important for Monsanto's hand to be able to take care of it.
Yeah, the second you see an Aldor Attendant come down, or really any one drop, even if it's from first day of school, if you don't already have a minion to kill it, you do have to think, what does that minion look like if it is buffed with either Hand of Adal or a Libram, of course. So heads up play there from Monsanto, as we expect nothing less. Now he does have an opportunity to actually keep hold of this board and keep this Shard Shatter Mystic on board and start push some damage. Solskjaer going to come down to kill off that Salit's Pride. It looks like Monsanto's going to follow up with the Swampoos again, just to pile on the pressure. You can see now, though, from Glory, he even has maybe a bit extreme, but double Loot Hoarder Coin Broom clears this up and draws a lot of cards. And it looks like Glory is just going to go with it. He gets to clear the board, end the turn with a 1-1, which isn't fantastic, but not bad. And most importantly as well, keeps that card draw going, which I think is a huge deal on the evolution of this archetype.
It absolutely is, yeah. Just that package that all kind of recycles and tutors into itself is just so beautiful when it all comes together. Salit's Pride really ending up being the key that unlocks so many combinations here. And just that natural card draw with the Loot Hoarder helping Glory cycle his way through the deck to that Outdoor Truthseeker, which is probably the most important card in the deck overall, I would say.
It really reminds me of the call to arms method, right? Like you put that draws cards that then draw more cards. So suddenly if you find one, you find half your deck and then you win the game. So yeah, very, very similar style if you can remember in those maybe nightmarish days, depending on which side of the battlefield you're on there.
Simpler times, Raven. Simpler times.
Yeah. Turn 5, you either won or you lost. Or I guess turn 4 at one point. So Monsanto has managed to stick this Lapidary, though. Does have another one. I will confess, I do agree with a chunk of the player base in that Kane seems to be slowly getting worse and worse as the other decks are getting stronger as a single card. Doesn't quite do the whole, ignore a taunt and I've won. It just doesn't happen that often anymore, so that's going to be a little bit stuck in his hand for now. But he could choose to use it to actually, like, not try and win, but just avoid the taunt for this one turn while he can't really deal with it anyway.
Yeah, the problem is that his board is still just so badly over-contested if he does that he's just almost conceding all tempo, but I'm struggling to find a better solution to that problem apart from just, like, Lapidary again and make 2 incredibly miserable trades into the 5-7 just so you're ahead on board to the tune of 1-5-5. Like, that is a better tempo play, I guess, overall than what he's done here, but it's so much sacrifice damage.
I respect this play a lot because, to me, it's actually feels like it's, okay, sometimes you have to hope you draw Blade Dance. There is the Relentless Pursuit. There is the Lapidary as well. Other cards can draw Blade Dance. Monsanto does also run a Consume Magic. So I think this play is nice because he has put Glory down to 13, a scary number, even though he has heal available to him with the Amber Watcher. And it just means that he's opened himself up to more cards off the top, having a much higher impact on this game. So, although it feels bad, I do think this was a nice play here from Monsanto. Glory, going to respond with this Amber Watcher and the help of a Broom, as always, doing fantastic work, making these trades valuable, and also retaining a lot of his own health. Oh, he got the Consume as well.
He did get the Consume.
Sick.
That is a very, very big deal indeed. You'll have a good idea about how much threat Penflinger can represent over the rest of the game with the constant recycling of this Libram that costs 0 that is currently on this minion, but he's going to go ahead and drop it.
Oh. Well, now with that silence, I think Monsanto's plan might become pretty straightforward.
Yep.
Ship all this damage to face. He's drew a Twin Slice and he has Relentless Pursuit still in hand.
Yep.
Looks fantastic to me.
And this is where Glory's build, with all of the extra healing that he has thrown in, can end up being to his benefit over the build that, say, Yala is running, which is probably a little bit more fragile to some of this straight-up aggro, making room for those Argent Braggarts and Silas that he has in there instead, because he does have a lot more outs to immediately defend himself off the top. And there is the biggest one of them, Raven. Kane already gone. That could be the lockout now next turn. This is going better than Glory would have even imagined in his wildest dreams so far in this series.
Yeah, Kane gone, the Consume Magic used just last turn from Monsanto. I mean, is that just good to draw another heal?
Value.
But we're now moving on to a game from Monsanto where he's almost relying on getting hold of a skull and then getting some kind of Blade Dance play. Oh, okay. Or just doing that as maybe he can get through one Libram of Hope, maybe, if everything goes well for him in the next couple of turns.
Yep.
But if there's a second one that comes down, that might well be lights out. I'm not even joking about this Hungry Crab. This might be clutch, because at the moment, Glory can't trade this 2-3 off to draw the second Amber Watcher.
Yeah, it's likely that if Monsanto does find a way through the first Libram of Hope, it's going to end up being a Blade Dance play anyway, which might just end up doing the job. But there's also a line from Monsanto where he just kind of shuts his eyes and just ignores Libram of Hope as a possibility from his opponent, just decides that he's never beating that card at this point anyway. just maxes out with efficiency of damage this turn, draws Skull next turn, goes from there. You know, there's a lot of ways that he could approach this.
And I think you have to do that against Paladin. When you've fallen behind a little bit, if there's any glimmer of just, you know, almost close your eyes and go, I think you do have to heavily consider it. And we do see now 7 damage from Monsanto going straight to the face. He's saying you've used an Amber Watcher. Okay, there's the second one, but the Libram of Hope just needs to not be there for him right now.
He's going to get some bad news.
And that looks like, on his end at least, it was a concede. And look at Glory. He knows only one game away from a final spot, Sottle. It is getting closer and closer to Glory, and you can see game by game what it means to him. He's both, you know, filled with energy and ecstatic at winning, and also probably mentally exhausted with the sheer pressure. It's not like he's played for 100 hours today, but I think it's just sheer pressure getting to him, which is completely understandable.
It absolutely is, but the important thing is that he masters it and he stays on top of it, right? Like, you know, pressure can be a great motivator, and it's something that all the best competitors have, where no one really stops feeling the nervous energy or the excitement or the adrenaline that comes with high-level competition. It's just that the very best players, the most experienced players, have managed to channel it into improving their performance and not taking away from it, and that's something that only really comes with experience. And so far, although Glory is clearly displaying a lot of emotion and a lot of nervous energy on his camera, it does not seem to be affecting his play absolutely in the slightest right now. And certainly his decks are being kind to him as well in terms of some of the draws he's putting together. But you know, that's just Hearthstone. You've got to have all of those things together. You've got to have the skill of a player, skill as a player. You have to have your mental game on point, and you also do need the run of the cards on some occasions. And it looks like Glory is putting together all three right now.
And it also looks like he's queuing this Secret Rogue. Both players in this semi-final have Secret Rogue, and it is a deck I expected to be shown much more than it was, or represented, should I say, much more than it was in this tournament. But again, I'll kind of echo the problem I was talking about before the tournament even began, was there are so many options in this meta. I struggled to even come up with a lineup I would have submitted, because there's just so many different ways you could have gone. But for these players, Rogue seems to have been doing a good job. But that might not be the best outcome there from his turn 1 Pharaoh Cat.
No, absolutely brutal. I think that's the second time we've seen that happen to Glory this tournament as well, and obviously a very small sample of games. That will make him feel a little bit better overall, I think, though.
I will say, though, and of course you don't... Generous Mummy's never a good thing, right? But he does have other things, right? He's got the prep dirty tricks, he has the evil miscreant, so it's not one of those hands where you're almost forced to play the Generous Mummy, because otherwise your turn's like hero power pass on turn 3. So at least he has other stuff. If he was going to get a bad one from Pharaoh Cat, at least this is a decent hand to protect that. Speaking of hands, though, if you add all those cards up, is that just lethal over a few turns?
It's looking very much like
close.
it. That hand is the juice from Monsanto. I like this decision from Glory on the previous turn as well. Very small, but you know, didn't drop out his secret. He just daggered up. No immediate benefit to it, but clearly has the intention, I think, next turn of looking at a prep secret evil miscreant turn, so you can actually start developing some tempo with the lackeys on the following turns. But yeah, Monsanto's hand is coming together into almost exactly what you want, I would say, particularly in this matchup as well.
Well, Glory's just hoping on the fact he's going to just rip Van Cleef and just have a good time next turn, which is always a nice thing. Yeah, this is it, isn't it? This miscreant will help him then progress the game towards landing Jandis, getting a few more card draws with the help of this Dirty Tricks, as again, versus Demon Hunter, especially Demon Hunter on coin. Not really expecting them to have the ability to dodge that Dirty Tricks for very long at all.
Right. I like this committal of the attack into the 1-2 there as well. Means that if Monsanto is going to use Soul Shear or something similar to take out the Evil Miscreant, that means that Glory then has the potential to swing his dagger again without being committed to dealing with the Spirit Jailer on the following turn. Small little optimizations, but Monsanto has the perfect answer, the clean answer, and the dagger swing from Glory also mitigates this scenario where he is able to take the remaining 1-1 off the board.
And already we mentioned it when he saw the opening hand, but Monsanto it looks to be that just the clean trade into the miscreant looks great. It's very nice. You get the minion off the board, empty it. But you could also just go face.
Yep.
And I like this a lot from Monsanto. He has so much damage. Even now, the cane could be used in this timing with that, that moment we always talked about where you use the cane to literally end the game regardless of board state. So it looks like he's making that decision. The second miscreant, the flurry of lackeys as well, and the 4-3 coming out from the faceless lackey.
It's a big
means
deal.
that Monsanto might have to go back to the drawing board in terms of this go face plan.
Yeah, because currently no AoE, and I still think face would be very viable from Monsanto, even against this board, just because of how thick and fast the damage does come. But Glory picked up probably the best disruption card in the matchup, which is Shadow Jeweler Hanar, which is one of the very few defensive tools that Rogue can really put up against a straight-up aggressive push from Demon Hunter. You can look at misdirections, at ice barriers, at counter spells, all of these things that can disrupt potential damage coming through if you're able to get that Hanar train going.
And most importantly, if he doesn't want to go for Jandis next turn, he has the prep for the Rogue Secret, which means he will have 3 mana to go for one of the mage options and make it playable on live, which is often the case with an early Hanar. It's hard to get the most powerful secrets, which are often mage, to get live on the same turn and keep them cycling. So he does have that ability, but also Monsanto does need to decide what he's doing, but I do like getting this Bladed Lady down. Just get something big on the board. Make Glory have to think about whether he needs to trade or not, because otherwise Glory's going to just be left free to do whatever he wants this game.
Monsanto does divert back though and start fighting for board here. It's a good chunk of damage that is missed to go face, but he's trying to dominate proceedings with the 6-5, taking the bigger value trade with the minion and tanking the damage with his face. But that was a lot of damage to sink into a randomly generated 2-drop from a faceless lack.
And this is one of those tough decisions, because it's tough because you've got multiple good options. Where does this Shadow Step go? Does it come out for Jandis now? Or do you think there's a turn of leeway maybe with the Shadow Jeweler Hanar play? Looks like Glory's already made play number 3, which is actually just use this Kobold Lackey to clear off the board and say, I'm not going to do anything overly fancy, I'm just going to make these minions go away.
Yeah, and play number 3 was absolutely where my head was at here as well. I don't think you can ever spend the 5 on Jandis that turn is the biggest problem, right? Because unless you get Earth Elemental or something similar, you're just tanking too much potential damage from the 6-attack Bladed Lady on the other side. So using the Shadow Step just for efficient removal there is certainly what I ended up favoring, and Glory seems to agree.
Didn't see one of the highlight new secrets for me this expansion, which is Oh My Yog.
Yeah,
is so powerful because even if you could argue a good spell gets played instead, it's just so much disruption for what your opponent wants to do. Right? It's so powerful, but he did end up with a Repentance instead.
Yeah, pretty big whiff, I would say, overall on those secrets. Even if you're going Paladin, as you mentioned, Oh My Yog can have an impact, but even Noble Sacrifice, right, can potentially be huge against Demon Hunter. Wouldn't necessarily be so in this board state, because there is the minion in play ready to attack, but if you're able to force them off board, which you quite often can as Rogue, that Noble Sack can end up, tanking 6, 8, 10 damage from the face attack coming the other way, trying to push lethal on you. So pretty poor outcome on the secrets, but Glory will still feel fairly comfortable as it stands based on the information he has.
On top of that, Never Surrender on a board this wide would make it almost immortal as well.
True.
In a lot of instances, but you are right, and now Monsanto has to work out the plan yet again. Marrow Slice is going to be equipped, and looks like he's going to commit to killing this Hanar. He does have the opportunity, if it's Redemption, he has that Panthera to clean it up, but of course now gets the news it's not, so he can chip that damage to face.
Yeah, it's one of the most horrible and sketchy 50-50s in the game that's come up since the beginning of time. The Noble Sack Redemption 50-50, because that's exactly what that was. If he attacks first and it's Noble Sack, he can't really kill the 1/4 effectively. If he attacks first and it's Redemption, if he attacks first with the Panther and it's Redemption, then he's in trouble the other way around. So you kind of just have to take the 50-50. Monsanto guessed right.
Not the best 2 minions I've ever seen from Jandis, but maybe this Death Rattle is going to be good enough to cause a bit of a threat for Monsanto over the next few turns. I'm a Skystalker fan here, Sotom. So is Glory.
Yeah.
Oh. Well, that's a good one.
Yes, it is.
So the Shard Shatter plus Hero Power Mana Feeder looks like a very nice turn, honestly. Keeps that card draw going, retains the second slice to consume Magic and Kayn, of course. This looks great.
You fell right into my trap.
I guess the weird question is, does he feel the need to swing into the Ash?
That's the final question that needs to be answered. I agree, the turn looks very, very powerful, but where does this weapon swing go now? So you can even make an argument of protecting the damage from your minions immediately. The best thing to attack into is the Ambusher, right? Take out the 2-3, because that means your minions have maximum chance of actually dealing damage.
Oh, but now with the Lapidary pickup, Faces the Place is back on the menu, isn't it?
It is, very much
This game it's given me whiplash with the amount of times we need to think whether he should just go face or not, and I'm sure Monsanto's struggling with that himself.
Oh, this is a big decision now from Glory as well, and he's not going to take too much time about it. He's going to rip that secret passage immediately, not feeling like the Skystalker is going to be big enough, and One Thief is another one of those crucial cards. Talking about how little natural disruption there is in the deck, but you can see already the insane amount of options that One Thief can give you that is not normally available. Frostbolt, Mirror Image, Ice Barrier, all of these tools that can fight the good fight for you against the Demon Hunter.
This has done everything that Glory needs it to do. It's insane. It's ticked all the boxes. He retains pretty much all of, if not all of these cards now, because they were drawn after the fact. Now he can get access to another secret. He's even going for Conjurer's Calling.
You can see, I've never seen him rocking around this much in his chair, like from watching him play on the APAC broadcast. He cannot sit still right now.
And I can't even imagine how he's feeling, because on the surface, this game seems to be going quite well for him after that last turn. But until the game is over and until the series is finished, you can't relax. There's no feeling of, oh yeah, it's done, I'm fine.
Bad feeling from Monsanto. He really has to dump his Kayn for pretty minimal value here, but he had to unlock the cycle. He's saying, you know, these mirror images are a problem that needs solving long term, so I need to find another Shard Shatter or a Blade Dance or something that's going to allow me to push through these without sinking infinite damage into them.
Right.
Just the ooze pickup off the consume magic. It's not what he's going to be looking for here. Monsanto might just start to feel his World Championship chances melting away.
And even if a Shard Shatter came down somehow right this turn, Glory just does it all again.
Yeah.
And then again, because that's what that secret passage has led him to. Look at his hand. It's just ticking all the boxes right now.
Wow. Aggressively trying to take board here from Monsanto.
So just on surface level here, to me, this looks like it could be a pretty fantastic Quest Adventurer, but already Glory pretty much committing to just saying, actually, I'm just going to play the biggest and also most resilient minion I can on board, and just carry on. My opponent is clearly struggling with this.
Oh! That's the draw. That is the draw. It's not immediately impactful because obviously he still has the Kayn here, so he's just going to focus this turn on just maxing out damage. But once this Kayn does get dealt with, that means that the Shard Shatter will be able to clear out the problem and keep on pushing.
Very interesting, because you get another glimpse into Monsanto's approach here. For some reason, my brain went straight to trade the Kayn into the Dragon, Shard Shatter, and then you could Relentless Pursuit the minion afterwards to just completely clean the board.
Sure.
But that is just an option. Like Monsanto said, actually, because of the Shard Shatter Mystic, I can push face this turn and then sweep away the taunts the next turn. So very, very interesting play there from Monsanto.
Oh! Are you kidding me, Raven? He does.
There's the emote.
He does indeed, Monsanto. You said it better than I could. He does possess true power.
There goes the Kayn. And now already Glory's feeling it. He knows Monsanto would have to do truly ridiculous things to get through, and this would mean like double blade dance with and triple twin slice or something to get through all of this.
It's not even that he rolled into taunts. He rolled into resilient taunts. One of them has a divine shield, and one of them still leaves 6 damage behind after it gets dealt with.
And there's still those mirror images sat there. Yes, they can be cleaned away with the shard chatter, but that's mana that Monsanto has to spend, which means his turn overall is going to be less powerful. Oh. I don't even see a good way for Monsanto to do this. I think this is just going to hurt.
Yeah, I mean, so the Ooze can go into the 6-4, Shard Shatter cleans up, takes the Divine Shield down with it, leaving just the 4-5 behind in terms of the taunts, and then that can be taken out with the rest, but there's still so much pressure left on board after the fact at that point.
Would it ever be worth, like, hero powering into the 6-4 to then clean off the Imp as well?
Sure, I can see that.
You know, and then Shard Shatter? It's tough, though, because you're going to leave stuff up no matter what.
Damage is a 7, 11.
8, 19 with the hero power?
20, so he has spell damage, right?
Oh, of course. Yep, didn't count the spell damage. Good job. No, there's a reason I keep you around.
No burn. Found off the evocation. Violet Warden just for another wave of taunts. I think Monsanto quite clearly indicated that he had some kind of tricky 2-turn plan just based on his weird sequence of attacks on the previous turn. Wow, he's going to go Steward as well, okay.
One thing I do like as well, Rogue doesn't really excel at killing off its own minions. So this has just left a fairly known quantity on the board, right? There's this much damage, plus what can be in hand that isn't minion-based.
Sure.
But still, I think Monsanto is relying on a lot of help from the top of his deck.
Yeah, for sure. Like chucking you this now while you have the spell damage. I think there may have been merit to Conjurer's Calling on something this turn, just trying to maybe dig for another minion that can disrupt whatever Monsanto's plan is. Obviously, you only have that one space available. Monsanto now is going to go looking something off the top to help him push that extra damage.
Yep. He can Shard Shatter, and he gets Relentless Pursuit, so his heal is actually going to be quite a lot because he won't take their damage in response. But it's still just those 2 Flame Imps. Are going to come out from the 6-1 is still just a problem.
Demons. Demons.
There's a huge amount of healing available, but there's just too many problems. Just one too many problems that need to be solved this turn from Monsanto. That Conjurer's Calling roll, like, I hate to go back to it again, but it was just so absurd.
And pretty incredible because he had the option, I think, on that Discover of a counterspell as well. And I'll be honest, I was half leaning. I always just look at counterspell, right? Because it's just such a powerful card. But he did go for that Conjurer's Call, and it's paid off a lot. So he could attack into the 6-1 now and do it that way around, then Shard Shatter and just leave him with the 4-5 and the 3-1.
Into my trap.
Problem here is the ambush, though.
Yeah, and Stewart might save the day here.
Yeah, this was the aggressive pick from Glory, while my mind was thinking defensively. Defensively with the taunt! But Glory finds it with the deadly poison, and it is going to be a 3-0 victory. Glory is going to be our first finalist of the 2020 World Championship. Monsanto taking it in his usual good spirits, it needs to be said, but that really was a blowout. Monsanto, I think, will be right to believe that he didn't feel too much agency in that series. Glory has scrapped and grinded and achieved all season, hoping for a series like that when it really came down to the wire, and that is exactly what he got, Raven.
And enjoyed the thumbs up there from Glory. But again, a huge congratulations to him. And honestly, we have brought it up because it has happened in the past. He has looked shaky, going back, past 2 years, now and again. But I will say his play has been solid. Yes, it helps if you get the good end of the stick sometimes, but his play has just been good. It's just good Hearthstone play. And if you do that with a little bit of, friendliness from maybe the luck side of it now and again with a good draw, that's how you win tournaments. That's how you win matches. And he is going to be sat now, taking this moment to maybe soak it all in and relax, as it won't be too long before he's sitting down to play in the finals of the World Championship this year versus either Yala or Silvername. Oh, I'm already excited, Sol.
Yes, and I also want to echo everything